And so we have reached the end of an era. This aircraft, the Boeing 747, was always headline news, and now these aircraft have been consigned to dusty shelves. The jumbo jet was considered obsolete by aviation experts because it was too big, too thirsty, and too old for a society focused on efficiency. However, this was something no one expected. Most planes were quietly put away on dusty shelves, and this plane was too. But now they are starting to make plans for its return. Think about it. Do you see things flying in the air? I don't think so. But this plane wants to change that. And now this plane has started to instill this in us. Every time we look up, we start trying to see these planes. This aircraft has now commenced operations. It will leave its competitors in the dust and crush them. Not as a passenger queen, but as the cornerstone of international cargo, government missions, and emergency response. And why are new aircraft gathering dust on the shelves right now? The company behind this aircraft has begun to ponder this because its design is 50 years old. They may have begun to take a huge risk. Who needs such a large, bold, and recognizable jet? This has nothing to do with nostalgia. No one would get involved in this if there wasn't something in it for them. The ongoing demands of our globalizing world, engineering determination, and economic necessity are the driving forces behind today's comeback. Punctuality is crucial for this aircraft, and in many disasters or military aid operations or transporting medical supplies, punctuality is very important, and this aircraft does that very well. It is evolving into roles that most of us would never have thought possible, and many people misinterpret this, but no one can understand it. The return of the 747 left everyone speechless. It astonished them, and I want to explain the plan for this aircraft's return to you step by step. And we see that the first step is the most important of all, and once you shake off the stress, you will feel much more relaxed. The legend is not only alive, it is being revived. The Boeing 747 not only revolutionized aviation, it also made the world smaller when it first landed on the runway in 1969. And that's why the great oceans began to seem small. A mesmerizing flight separated cities thousands of kilometers apart. And this aircraft was a true engineering marvel, which is why it ranked among the best aircraft of its time. It can be considered the king or the forefather of those aircraft. It represented possibilities. From New York to Sydney, its recognizable hump is instantly recognizable. Air travel was made dazzling, accessible, and magical by the Queen of the Skies. However, every golden age comes to an end. As we entered the 21st century, the very things that made the 747 iconic turned against it. Its engines were vastly different from the new generation engines. And while the new engines consumed less fuel, this aircraft guzzled fuel like a sponge, and that was its worst feature. Maintenance costs skyrocketed. Airlines, constantly seeking to reduce costs, began to favor more efficient counterparts such as the 777, A350, and 787. As this aircraft was consigned to dusty shelves, quieter, better aircraft took its place. Everyone loved these new aircraft. Crowds of nostalgic spectators gathered to watch the final flights. For many, it seemed like the end of an era, and loves always begin to fade. That's why career will always be important. The world thought this aviation legend had come to an end, but a new chapter was cunningly beginning, because the story of the 747 is not just about what it was, but what it became. And 5 years ago, a disease emerged that grounded planes everywhere. Borders closed, flights vanished for passengers. The aviation industry braced for an unprecedented crisis, and these companies waited to see what would happen, and there was a major downturn. However, this chaos marked the beginning of a new era for the Boeing 747, an aircraft that had essentially been retired. As the pandemic paralyzed passenger travel, demand for air cargo surged. Vaccines, medical supplies, and online shopping orders increased across continents, and everyone was looking for an aircraft to safely transport medical drugs. And this aircraft suddenly began to appear in the skies. The 747 entered service. Everyone commented on the design of this aircraft, saying it had a long nose and a different engine. But other aircraft were not as powerful as this one and could not overcome the obstacles. So this aircraft entered service and took the lead. While 747 cargo planes flew nonstop, carrying everything from vital medicines to Europe and North America to personal protective equipment, PPE from China, terminals stood empty. Carolux, UPS, and Atlas Air forced their fleets to operate 24 hours a day. Companies wanted to bring back the planes they had temporarily taken off the shelves. Some even modified old 747 passenger planes to carry cargo on the main deck, and the king began to reclaim his throne because the old planes became a bit more reliable, plus they had made fun of this plane, and now it was doing the job. That's what really matters. When there was no more room for cargo on passenger planes, the 747Fs carried thousands of tons of emergency supplies. That's why online retailers wanted to use this aircraft, because it had the unique feature of carrying more cargo, the aircraft's distinctive nose door. And this aircraft offered possibilities for everything. It helped transport everything, even things you wouldn't think of. When supply chains cannot afford any delays, imagine lorries, generators, and even helicopters. But this was more than just a short-term solution. The pandemic showed that the 747 was still relevant in an era of delicate logistics and global crises. It was special, and companies did extra things to these planes to use them more, extending their lifespans. Sometimes this can lead to disaster. The Queen of the Skies had found its second wind. If any aircraft best represents the 747's comeback, it is the 747-8F. This cargo plane is unlike any other, and the tradition continues with these aircraft. It was specially designed to achieve what no other jet could. The 747-8F is a cargo giant. With its enormous main deck, recognizable nose door, and capacity to swallow everything from concert stages to jet engines, it is now the preferred vessel for large and urgent tasks. Vaccines were crucial during the corona pandemic, so this aircraft was used again. Everyone called this aircraft the King. When the triple-decker 747-8F landed at sunrise, it was unloading pallets. UPS and Atlas Air not only kept their 747-8Fs in service, but also expanded their fleets during a period when e-commerce was booming and supply chains were faltering. Atlas Air expanded its fleet to 65 jumbo jets in 2024, with the addition of 3 new 747-8Fs. Their CEOs were forthright. No one else had the capability to do what this aircraft could do. The countries using it were very fortunate. UPS went one step further by modifying the 747-8Fs to accommodate farmers sensitive to temperature changes and achieve record-breaking long-haul flights between Asia and North America. Teams at Cargolux refer to the 747-8F as the backbone of our global network. This aircraft is something of a legend. Even its stories are special. An entire fleet of fire engines was transported to Australia on a single 747-8F. Another aircraft landed at remote airports that no other wide-body aircraft could reach, loaded with emergency disaster relief supplies. Its heavy cargo load set a record. An Atlas Air flight could have outclassed most aircraft with its 137 metric ton cargo. Not everything should be judged by volume alone. There's something different behind this. Large cargo items that are impossible to load onto another cargo aircraft can be loaded through the nose door. Even if the item to be loaded is very large, everything could be loaded onto this aircraft. Call the 747-8F. This is not nostalgia, but an important innovation in high-risk logistics. In a world where flexibility, scale, and speed are critical, the 747-8F is still far ahead. These aircraft are generally used for low-risk jobs, but some operators overdo it and take on excessive risk by loading too much cargo. There is also the possibility of a crash. Only the largest, most flexible, and most reliable aircraft will be suitable for these missions. Air Force One is at the top. When the president needs to travel intercontinental, security, range, and space are non-negotiable. Equipped with defense and covert communication systems, the heavily modified 747-200B platform becomes a flying White House capable of governing the nation from 40,000 feet. Why the 747? When transporting cargo on these aircraft, numerous personnel are always assigned for security alongside the cargo, but some aircraft lack the space to accommodate them, or very few people are placed there. That's not the case with this aircraft. It can accommodate all the personnel directly, and many people are placed there. Boeing delivers 2 new generation 747-8s and the first aircraft for future presidential service from Qatar. But most countries still use the 747 aircraft for presidential purposes. It has a legacy. They also place a great deal of trust in this aircraft. However, there is more to the 747's government history, and there is an aircraft called the E-4B, the Doomsday Plane. Everyone began to fear it. A 747 equipped with layered shields, fail-safe radios, and technology sufficient to manage an air war was converted into a fortified nuclear command center. and you have the ability to see in the air in a second, as well as the ability to stay in the air for days. There are stories of them flying near Washington to carry out covert operations in emergencies or waiting in secret locations when the global order is in danger. When you see an E-4B on the ramp, you know the situation is serious. Other countries outside the U.S. use the 747 for aerial research, disaster relief, and VIP transport. And you can customize it to any shape you want, turning this aircraft into anything you need. The 747 is much more than just an aircraft. Whether it's transporting a government delegation or serving as a flying laboratory, it acts as a platform of possibilities. And let's take a moment to consider why that is. Don't assume the 747 was designed solely for cargo capacity or passenger comfort. This aircraft is one of the most adaptable devices ever created, a shape-shifting and resilient vehicle. The 747s are turning heads on every continent with the Qantas One Dreaming Art plane, Iron Maiden's World Tour jet, China Airlines Flying Dragon, and extraordinary one-off paint jobs. And this was part of the aircraft's first version. Some jumbos are used by NASA to launch satellites and fly science laboratories, and the other models had tasks involving risky operations. They were being tested to see how well they could withstand such challenges. They become even more irregular. Converted 747s are used in the United States as supertanker firefighting giants, saving homes, forests, and lives by dropping 19,000 gallons of water at once on severe forest fires. And this company has a whole fleet of similar jumbos everywhere. They've started being used in hotels or displayed in a restaurant or museum for people to see. And there are numerous aircraft provided for agents. Many might be for covert operations. Have you ever wondered how many lives the Queen of the Skies might have? Which version surprised you the most? Write to us about the features that struck you as different. This is not just a revival, it is a complete reinvention. This aircraft has begun to take steps towards the future, leaving behind whatever happened in the past, to change, to adapt, and to remain indispensable in unexpected ways. If you think its best days are behind it, you may want to stay. The new chapter of the Jumbo is just beginning. If you want to fly with this aircraft's new designs, you may need to apply. But this situation is not positive at the moment. That's the reality. The final chapter has not yet been written, and it seems unlikely to be written for some time. Some scientists and aircraft engineers are saying that this aircraft will outperform its competitors and that it will still be in use even 20 years from now. Do you think it will still be in use by then? Or will new ones be built? Why? It's very simple. Their load capacity, nose loading flexibility, and ability to effortlessly transport large intercontinental cargoes are unmatched by any other aircraft. The companies that fly these planes are putting unimaginable amounts of money on the table to bring this aircraft back to life. No one can even fathom these sums, and now they have started to replace the old planes. For this reason, cargo aircraft are now in better condition and more advanced than passenger aircraft, and countries' military personnel want these aircraft even more. The new generation Air Force One aircraft is still a 747. As long as there is a need for air command centers, E-4B Doomsday aircraft will continue to serve VIP travel from Asia to the Middle East. They continue to prefer the 747 because of its extraordinary combination of status, security, and space. Naturally, the world is changing, and the 747 faces significant sustainability challenges as a result of efforts towards a greener sky. And some companies say efficiency is paramount, so they offer the opportunity to enhance these aircraft by adding extra features when using them. And taking the passenger section of this aircraft is torture, so no one takes the passenger section of this aircraft anymore. This title has been taken over by contemporary twins such as the 777X and A350. And there is a good reason for this. Economically, twin engines are more advantageous, so 747 aircraft can lag far behind. It seems unlikely that airlines will start using the 747 again on frequently used passenger routes. Those days are behind us. However, the 747 continues to dominate as a cargo plane, government platform, or special mission jet. It is not stuck in the past. It is making a difference in new ways. And the King has now strengthened itself, so there are hopes for more confident flying in the future. Returning to the old ways, making a comeback, is not always the best path. And that is the only thing this aircraft embodies. standing out by doing what is best for the world. The story of the Boeing 747. This is much more than just ups and downs. It is a lesson in adaptation, perseverance, and the humble genius of engineering. For years, it was said that the Queen of the Skies had reached the end of her life. And while efficiency is crucial, fuel consumption is equally important. These two factors must be carefully balanced. However, the myth of its demise was just that, a myth. The 747 is very much alive. It serves in ways most people never thought possible and wears new crowns. And this aircraft is still alive while other aircraft gather dust on shelves or in museums. This aircraft flies. Everyone envies this aircraft. It directs international supply chains, transports heads of state, prepares for emergencies, and emerges in the most unexpected capacities. Yes, it's a comeback story, from firefighting to flying laboratories. But it's more than that, it's an evolution. And the king took a very good step into life. And he took a step back from what he couldn't do, then moved forward properly and did great things. This journey says a lot about aviation in general. You don't always have to start from scratch to innovate. The most famous designs sometimes survive because they change. And even in the future, this aircraft will be remembered with great words. To the Queen and her loyal subjects who carry on her legacy, to her admirers, cargo crews, mechanics and pilots, cheers. Don't forget this aircraft. When you look up, aim to see this aircraft. They just find new ways to fly. Now I want to hear from you. Have you seen a 747 recently? And if you have any memories related to this aircraft, please write them in the comments.